Just listen to this right now. The main problem of the digestive system, which causes most of the diseases that occur there, is bile stagnation. Understand this correctly, bile stagnation. Bile stagnation interferes with the liver, bile stagnation interferes with the gallbladder and the liver, with the entire hepatobiliary system. Bile stagnation disrupts the functioning of the pancreas. Bile stagnation interferes with the functioning of the stomach. Eventually, the bile is simply thrown back into the stomach. Bile stagnation leads to poor digestion of food. Undigested food causes the small and large intestines to function poorly. And bile stagnation, in essence, is the very problem that basically serves as the foundation for most diseases of the digestive system. But what is bile stagnation? Why does it stagnate there? Why isn't it being used? Let's figure this out. So today for our filming, we'll need Vasya. Vasya has already appeared in one of our videos about the pancreas. Here it's just to show that Vasya has a liver which produces bile, and the bile flows from the liver into the duodenum. It is located deep inside the abdomen, beneath all the intestines. And pancreatic juice from the pancreas, another gland that also produces enzymes, also flows into the duodenum there. They both empty into a single chamber called the hepatopancreatic ampulla, and from there, through a special sphincter, the sphincter of Oddi, the pancreatic juice and bile from the liver are released into the duodenum, where digestion takes place. And bile, how can I explain this simply? Bile is an enzyme, an emulsifier, a substance that coats fat, and bile is an essential component for digesting fatty foods. And bile is released from the liver and gallbladder as a result of the digestive system being stimulated by fatty food. So when a person eats some food, that food acts as an irritant inside the digestive system. And immediately, in response to the arrival of this food, gastric juice begins to be produced, pancreatic enzymes start to be secreted, and bile begins to be produced, released, and excreted in the person. And by the way, the stimulus for this bile secretion is the consumption of fatty foods. But why does bile stasis occur? What is wrong with our digestive system? That's another question. So in order to understand what is wrong with the digestive system and why bile stasis occurs, we need to examine how food is digested. What I'm about to tell you now, my friends, may not be so easy to grasp because we're used to thinking differently. We're used to it and we act, and we always do things a little differently than we should, than is necessary, than is correct. And that's why when we hear information that contradicts this, our brain resists it. I talk to people about proper nutrition. They throw up their hands and say, "That's impossible, doctor. Something's not right because we do everything the opposite way. That's why we get sick. Doctor, cure us, but so that we don't have to change anything." Well, that's not going to work. Guys, now I'm going to explain to you why the diet, the eating plan that I talk about, which is so remarkable, why it is the right one. Because it matches the digestion that takes place in the human body, but we need to go through everything in detail. So listen carefully. I don't eat anything all night. I don't eat at night. How long is the night? People tell me 8 hours. No, friends, it's not 8 hours. It's, pay attention, 12 hours. You say, but I don't sleep for 12 hours. I'm not asking how long you sleep, but for the digestive system, night is 12 hours. If I have dinner at 7 in the evening and breakfast at 7 in the morning, from 7 to 7, that's 12 hours. So for the digestive system, night is 12 hours. And at night, I don't eat anything. But during this time when I'm not eating, the liver continues to produce bile. The liver doesn't sleep at night. It keeps producing bile. Not a lot, but it maintains a certain background level of bile production. And this bile, since I haven't eaten anything, doesn't get used. At the same time, bile flows out of the liver, but it has nowhere to go into the intestine because the sphincter is closed, and that's why, specifically for this purpose, our hepatobiliary liver bile system is equipped with a reservoir called the gallbladder. By the way, never have your gallbladder removed. It is essential. You need it to live. I know many people have already had it removed and many others are being threatened with removal. Don't remove it. It can be healed. So the liver continues to produce bile at night, and this bile accumulates in the gallbladder. But it isn't used. It has nowhere to go for 12 hours. Over 12 hours, a large amount of bile is produced and accumulates in the gallbladder, essentially more than at any other time of the day. And when you wake up in the morning, because you haven't eaten anything all night, it turns out that by morning, your gallbladder is full of bile. So, pay attention. In the morning, the gallbladder is full of bile. Let's draw a conclusion. In the morning, we need to empty it. But let me give you a little hint. Imagine that during the night, you also didn't go to the bathroom to urinate. But at the same time, your kidneys kept working through the night, producing urine and collecting it in the bladder. That is, during the night, both the gallbladder and the urinary bladder filled up. And by morning, your bladder is full. And you start your day by emptying your bladder. Urgently. You have to. Right now. And what about gallbladder? It doesn't hurt like that. It doesn't call you. There's no urge there. But understand that what happened to your bladder overnight is exactly what happened to your gallbladder. The gallbladder filled up with bile during the night, and in the morning it needs to be emptied. This is the first factor we need to recognize now. So, in the morning, before we've eaten anything, we need to empty the gallbladder that has filled up overnight. Yes, all right, we need to empty the gallbladder. How? It's not like the bladder, that's simpler, that's all clear. How do you empty the gallbladder? You need to know the principles. How is the gallbladder emptied? To empty the gallbladder, two processes must occur simultaneously. Contraction of the muscular wall of the gallbladder, which pushes the bile out, and relaxation of the sphincter, the opening in the bile ducts that normally prevents bile from freely flowing into the duodenum. In other words, the gallbladder contracts and the opening opens. Both of these processes are necessary. What triggers them? How can I do that? I can't just order the gallbladder, contract, or tell the opening, open up. No. But this process, regulated by the autonomic nervous system, happens automatically as needed. And what is necessity? It means that bile is needed when fatty food enters the digestive system. I repeat, bile is a coating agent, an emulsifier of fat, and bile is needed to digest fatty foods. So bile will be released, the gallbladder will contract, and the sphincter will relax if fatty food enters the digestive system. That's when bile is released to digest this fatty food. I want to warn you right away, slightly off topic, that there are some sly yellow ones I remembered the word, sly yellow specialists who say, to prevent bile stagnation, you need to drink a glass of water in the morning. That's complete idiocy. In response to drinking water, bile will not be released. Yes, I know many so-called experts out there tell people fairy tales. Water will not irritate the digestive system from the inside in a way that would trigger bile release. So these are just fairy tales. Bile is released by consuming fatty foods. So what does that mean? To prevent bile stagnation, do we need to eat fatty foods? Yes, can you believe it? Yes, you need to eat fatty foods. What, in the morning? Yes, can you believe it? In the morning. Because fatty food is harmful to the body no matter what. It's always harmful. Unless there's one exception. Fatty food can be eaten without harm to your health and it will be well digested. In the morning and no later than 9 o'clock. So, attention. In the morning, you should eat fatty foods. Then it won't harm your body and can even be beneficial. This leads to bile being released, the gallbladder contracts, and the sphincter relaxes. And remember, the bubble filled up all night. And if the gallbladder has been filling up all night, then there's a lot of bile in there. And if there's a lot of bile, then the amount of food you eat for breakfast should also be enough so that all the bile gets used up. So there should be a lot of food as well. How much is that? A lot doesn't mean a bucketful or a kilogram or a whole pood of food. Understand that a lot of food means a percentage of your daily intake. A percentage of your daily intake. Look, if this is the total amount you eat in a day, then you should eat 60% of it for breakfast, 30% for lunch, and 10% for dinner. Those are the numbers. People debate with me, argue, especially my viewers in the comments. How can you eat that much for breakfast? But how do you manage to eat that much for lunch and dinner? I barely eat at all. Listen, figure out for yourself what your daily intake is. There you go. That's how much I eat in a day. And then eat 55 to 60% of that for breakfast. I'm not saying a kilogram or a liter, but you need to eat more than half of your total daily food at breakfast. Then add half of that amount for lunch, and then even less for dinner, about 10%. Understand, with this kind of proper nutrition, your bile will be excreted normally, your enzymes will be used efficiently, your pancreas will be healthy, your liver will be healthy with no fatty hepatosis, your gallbladder will be healthy with no cholecystitis, your stomach will be healthy with no gastritis, and you won't have reflux. That's exactly what you need. You need to start eating properly. Proper nutrition means redistributing your food intake so that you have a big breakfast, a small lunch, and a tiny dinner. That's all there is to it. And all the problems of the digestive system arise because for most people, it's the opposite. They have a tiny breakfast, just some coffee and a cookie. No real lunch to speak of, and then in the evening they eat everything all at once. And that's when all the problems start. It's simple. Bile stasis happens because a person doesn't have a proper breakfast. By proper, I mean a big and fatty breakfast. But for the pancreas, it also needs to be an early breakfast. But that's already about the pancreas. You know, when I talk to people about proper nutrition and the digestive system, many accept it, but many argue. Some immediately say, no, that's not for me, that's impossible. And there are people who have accepted this, who use it, who apply it, and now their digestive system is in much better condition. They no longer have problems with their liver, gallbladder, pancreas, stomach, or anything else. And they write to me, and it's nice to read their comments. But often, all the people who hear about nutrition, about what I say regarding how the digestive system works, they often miss one last and at the same time key point. What is the most important thing in nutrition? And the most important thing, guys, is that all these processes that happen in our digestive system during digestion, how hydrochloric acid is produced, how bile is secreted, how the sphincters work, it's all a rather sensitive mechanism. And one of the biggest enemies of this mechanism is the hormone adrenaline. So I'm explaining this in detail, starting from the anatomy, because otherwise it just won't get through. The worst, most harmful thing you can do to your digestive system is experience stress after eating. The main enemy of the digestive system is stress after a meal. That is, if you eat in a hurry, then rush off to work, to catch a bus, to get on public transport, or while driving. And this post-meal adrenaline leads to the bile ducts becoming constricted and spasmed. As a result, after eating, the gallbladder contracts, but the sphincter remains closed. This causes a spasmodic pain in the right upper abdomen known as hepatic colic. Or, in other words, the diagnosis is biliary dyskinesia. Abdominal pain, pain in the right upper abdomen after eating occurs simply because a person didn't take into account that after eating it's necessary. That is, you need to plan your meal, so I know you're in a hurry to get to work, but that really doesn't matter at all. Plan your meal so that after eating you have 30 minutes of complete rest. Exactly like that. That is, you need 30 minutes of rest for digestion, for the whole body, for the nerves, for everything. And I recommend, in order for digestion to go well, I'm being a bit clever here, but what do I recommend? I recommend using the infrared heat of turmanium ceramic. In other words, heat that is exactly the same as the warmth of my own body, by placing such a mat on your abdomen to warm up your stomach, your right hypochondrium, and your bile ducts. When heated, the ducts expand. That's the first thing. And then the bile flows out, so there is no bile stagnation. Heating also relieves spasms, which stops the pain. This is for dyskinesia. That's the second point. Heating improves the production of enzymes, including those from the pancreas and bile. And warming helps restore the very structure of these glands. So this leads not only to functional recovery, but also to morphological restoration of the glands themselves. And therefore, for digestion, for eliminating bile stagnation, the most important factor, the factor that many people miss, is precisely this: warming the stomach 20 to 30 minutes after eating. This is the most important. This is the main thing. And many people listen to Dr. Golod, change their diet, but still have problems. They feel heaviness in their stomach after eating. They lack the enzymes needed to digest that amount of food in the morning. They have no appetite, no mood, no time. That's all there is to it. And that's why the effect of changing the diet didn't happen. And why is that? They missed the most important thing. They missed warming up the abdomen. People come to see me and they've watched these videos. They already know about nutrition. I ask them, did you change your diet? Well, I tried something. Some things worked. I say, do you warm your abdomen after eating? No. Well, you missed the most important thing. You missed the most important thing. And that was the most important thing. Warming up the abdomen for 20 to 30 minutes every time after eating, but mainly after breakfast. Do you know what the most common objection is? What do people say in response to me? I don't have time for that. I'm rushing to work. There's some dishonesty in these words, because if you start breakfast half an hour earlier and finish half an hour earlier, you'll have a whole 30 minutes to warm your abdomen. And if your liver, your health, your digestive system are important to you, then establish proper nutrition and, let's say, make time your own. Take control of your time. Try to arrange your schedule so that your daily routine, work and activities do not harm your health, but on the contrary, support it. Healthy eating, a healthy routine, your well-being. Today, the information we discussed was on the topic of bile stasis. To prevent bile stasis, all you need to do is change, establish, restore, and maintain proper nutrition. Proper nutrition. I talked about this a little bit. But just as important, warm your abdomen for 20 to 30 minutes after eating, and then you won't have bile stasis. And then your digestion will function properly and you will have a healthy digestive system. Today, this was the information from Dr. Golod for you. Well, I'll be waiting. Please write in the comments below what you think about this.